Now today in the shop we painted the Mt09 windscreen. We took the original plexiglass part, did the total prep of it, then primed it using Cromax custom blue paint, got the blue painted, and just in the nick of time managed to get, before the weather really went south, managed to get the clear coats on. It was a great day. Now in the shop, usually we would be painting this time of year. We have in the very near future, next couple of days, Luciano's going to bring over a gas tank. I've got some other work lined up, and I'm not sure exactly how the rest of the winter is going to play out. But we have got a real good start on getting the parts painted for the Mt09. And then when we're all done with the blue, we're going to make the wheels silver with the custom silver paint that we mixed on a previous video. Now this is going to be kind of a unique day for a lot of reasons. We of course have errands to do, family things. But they're pouring concrete by the kids' house today, and it's supposed to be starting tomorrow. It's going to be in the teens all day long for 2 or 3 days. So what I wanted to do is get some painting done today if possible. So the next part of our Mt09 project is going to be, well, I was hoping the other windshield would already be here. It's not. It's somewhere out on the west coast on a trawler. We're going to take this windshield off today and get it painted. Now what we're trying to do with the Mt09 is do this all the things we're doing one step at a time, and so far that's been working out pretty well. All the little detail changes, like the little inserts that we made for the frame. I have another thing I thought about doing when I was looking at this on a computer. This edge down here, I can make a little carbon fiber filler part for that. Make that look a little neater. What we're just trying to do is just clean up or make the bike look a little more finished, because remember, it is a super low-end bike too. Under $9,000. But I wanted to have two windshields, one that would be, well, we haven't gotten the other one here yet, and one that would look more or less like bodywork, painted. And we're going to see when that windshield comes, if it gets here in the next month. Now the windshield, I have two windshields for the R1. I have the tinted one, and I have the clear one that's painted up in the nose. And believe it or not, painting that little piece up in the nose did change the look of the bike when I was evil twinning this out years ago. I have two windshields for the 750, a long one and a short one. Well, because we're going to be riding in the winter, I'm not going to take the long one off, that's for sure. And when I put the tinted windshield, the smoked one, on the 650, it kind of obscures that carbon fiber part that it took me so long to make, so I've kind of resigned myself to the fact I'll be leaving that on. But that's the whole point. I like to evil twin the bikes out, change them around, move parts around. I just don't like to sit on a bike and go through a whole summer without changing something. And to me, that's one of the parts of motorcycling I enjoy. So what I want to do is, because it's sunny outside, it's really cold, but it's sunny, I wanted to take the bike out into the driveway, even though there's still some snow. I'll be real careful, and shoot a couple of pictures. Because from this point on, I don't have a tinted windshield. I'll have the blue windshield. Once I get it all buffed out and polished, I'll put it back on the bike. But all of the parts I've painted so far with the blue paint, I've really thought that just made the bike a lot more attractive in my eyes. But of course, all of that is in the eye of the beholder. Now, the objective of all the things that I do with the bikes that I have done in my collection and renovated and painted and done some small custom work on, there's an overall objective. The objective is, when you're all done customizing the bike, that you haven't made it an unrideable, uncomfortable, or impractical bike in some way. And in the past, I have done that, of course, especially with RDs, made them very fast but unrideable, or in some cases made bikes that they really were great on the track, but they were a little bit loud for riding around on the street. And so the objective is always that the touches you do don't really change the bike. The bike still stays exactly the same. An example, those little frame covers, they make the bike look a little cleaner and neater, and I try to make it look like the factory might have made them. Painting those radiator side covers, yeah, that's something. Maybe in some models they even did it, I don't know. Now, we're still working on the logo at this point in time. The exhaust system, I was tempted to, when I bought the bike, go out and buy an exhaust system. And then I said, if I start that, going to make the bike loud again, and it's going to be a problem. And where the stock exhaust is really geared for low-end torque. And the reality is that's how I like to ride. And I like the idea that the way it sounds, to me it sounds great. And I don't get that thing when I start it up at 7:30 in the morning. I wake up the neighborhood. So it's all personal. And I always like to, at the end of changing or painting or doing anything, just get it out in the sun. And I had to wait. I had to wait about 2 weeks to get this out in the sun to shoot these pictures. Now I can go down by the computer, look at them, and now I can really make that final evaluation. What's the next part I want to do? Or when is it going to be time to paint the wheels? So finally, after all this time, I get a chance to see what these little inserts in the frame look like in some sun. This is the first sun we've had in a week, maybe more than a week. So what I want to do is just carefully remove the bolts. I took so much care to get this all in alignment that it's relatively straightforward taking this on and off now. It's no problem at all. Now, that carbon fiber mount that we made, it took a lot of time to get that windshield to lay back. Now once it's painted, that's really going to accent the bike even more. Now we have a good place to mount our quartz clock. And that clock is really handy, for me anyway. So now Karen made out a plan. We're going to go do all our errands, and we want to maybe even stop by the kids' house and see how that concrete work is coming out. When I get back, and if the weather holds out, we'll paint the windshield. And again, it's always amazing to me how small details, and what we're trying to do with this modification is make small details that you don't even notice right away, but that overall give the bike a very finished and unique custom look. And having that windshield laid back is going to be one of those features. But it's time to go. Well, in this cold weather, these guys just never get enough to eat. They're kind of like me all the time. Oh, it's time to do our errands. I love it. We're at the kids' house where they are getting ready to pour concrete, I guess. Maybe they poured some of it. Brings back a lot of memories. I guess they're on a coffee break. Oh my God. Does that bring back memories? Oh my God. If you look, this backyard had a 52-foot deck. I think they got about half of that now. Holy moly, baby. And believe it or not, one of the places we're gonna go today is to Amazing Savings in Teaneck and get some more of those socks. We got some for the kids, got some for me. Those socks are amazing. I had that on a previous video. But this is the big Amazing Savings in Teaneck on Queen Anne Road, and they're gonna have more socks. We're gonna buy some more socks for our family. My feet are so nice and toasty warm even today. Gotta find the socks. Those socks are so good. Those are the same ones, right?
Yep. Just pick out which ones you want.
Polar Extreme is the name of the game. These are really good, and boy, when I was riding in cold weather, did they make a difference. Wow. Even working in the garage. Time to get home and have some coffee. So we are home with our traction control in the driveway. Oh boy, when it hits the ice, that traction control kicks in. Anyway, we are home, and it's time to paint. And fresh brewed coffee to go with nice fur-lined socks. What could be better on a cold day? And if you're looking to add 20 to 30 years to your life, drink a lot of coffee. That's a proven fact. So I'm trying not to leave out any steps. The first part on painting any plexiglass, we got to clean it. I have to heat gun this, or hair dryer, this sticker off, because we'll be putting that back on later. Now, as it always is, step one of anything you're going to paint, or polish even, is to get it thoroughly clean. In this case, I want both sides done, because I do have a dilemma here. It's a strange dilemma. I don't know whether to paint the back of this blue, or make it flat black, or I looked at it in position to see if I was going to like it being black or blue, or I'm not sure. So it's a dilemma I have to think about, but I think to make sense of it, I'll first paint the whole part blue, Then if I have to, I'll back mask this and, God forbid, paint it flat black. I don't know, but you don't really see in there. And I'm trying to make it, well, until I actually have it painted blue, I'm not going to know. But to start with, I am going to paint the whole thing blue. But the first step of anything, and if you get nothing else off my tutorial videos, I have learned the hard way in life, as I'm sure everybody that ever painted a lot of stuff does. If it's not clean, if you bury some grease in the paint and some dirt and grease and grit, you wind up with some frustration somewhere down the road. And a good rinse with really hot water. The hot water in this house is, oh, it's really hot. So this even helps. Anything we could do. And then I'll use the final thing, M600, before I ever touch this with sandpaper. So this is Sicken's M600, of which this is a can that's probably 20 or 30 years old. I know you can't buy this anymore, but any degreasing agent, it just helps get our bond, and we want the bond mostly in the valleys, not on the mountaintops. The valleys are where it's going to be a problem. Also, anywhere there's an edge, I want to make sure I have a good radius and a good tooth for the paint. And I noticed when I was riding the bike, you could see they really didn't do a great job on this edge, but I will. So this part will be just a little bit nicer than when we got it from China. And I'm really looking forward to this because the other one may be not here for a year. Who the hell knows the way shipping has evolved in the country, I guess over the world too. But anyway, anywhere there's a valley, we want to make sure we get a good tooth when we sand this. Getting it sanded with 400 sandpaper is absolutely critical to get the primer to stick. Now, for people that don't know, plexiglass like this, and I molded, injection molded things, and Dave Midgley vacuum formed this kind of material. In fact, I think he still has the machine in his shop. You could buy this material in a million grades, including the stuff they make jet aircraft cockpits out of, which is probably thousands of dollars a square foot. I don't know. But I know this looks like a pretty good grade of it. And we want to make sure the number one job is that the paint sticks. So this is the grade of sandpaper, and it's Indasa. It's 400, and we're going to sand it wet with a little bit of Dawn and some soapy water. Now, I always treat anything plastic the same way. Even though the grades are plastic and they're molded differently, and some parts have mold release when they come out of the mold and some are painted. To me, anything plastic, a couple of general rules. You need at least a 400 grit tooth to get the primer to stick. You need the radius. Everywhere there's a sharp edge, and this part does have some sharp edges, and in this case, it's this edge up here I'm going to spend a lot of time on, because as you're riding the bike, you see the light going back and forth over that. So this is going to be a little labor intensive. I'm not going to deny that this is going to take some time, but in the end, I don't want, especially down in the valleys, it's always the valleys where paint tends to pull up. Now, we're going to not have any masking tape on this unless we paint the back flat black, so I don't have to worry about tape and pulling up, but I do want to get as good a bond as I can from the paint, and it looks like the weather's cooperating. It's a little bit above freezing already. I think we're going to have a wonderful painting day, and the result, by tonight, we're going to have our part painted and sitting out in the garage drying. Now, this is the part of the job that you really just have to pay the price. You don't want any shiny spots, especially in the valleys. And just like digging a foundation of a house, if you don't get the foundation right, you can put all the Cromax and all the clear and everything on here, and it peels right up. So it really took my time getting this scuffed. And one final wipe down with M600. We'll be ready to make up a handle. We need to be able to hold this somehow conveniently, and of course you don't see the back in between the screws here, especially, so I can just hot glue a piece of wood to the back. It'll have a very convenient handle to hold it. Otherwise, I don't want to put screws in here and hold it by the back, because it builds up paint around the edge of the screw, and then I want where the screws go in there to be perfect when I'm done with this. Anytime I try to take a shortcut early on, I'm tempted to take a shortcut. I look back at some of the things I've painted, and in the very end, the paint didn't stick well, and I said, oh boy. Now, final wipe here, and we'll be ready to go. I got to find a piece of wood to make a handle and get the hot glue gun. That's worked out well. But prepping any plastic parts before we prime them, we're going to have to see if we have enough. I know we do, but I want to see how many cans of primer sealer we have, because there's still some other parts I want to paint. I don't want to be down to the last can, because on a job like this I want to use a brand new can. Now I use this for just making handles for parts. It's real handy for one reason. You can just break it off, or in some cases you have to use a little alcohol. But it makes a temporary, at best it's a temporary bond, and it certainly works for this application just fine. Now luckily I still have 2 brand new cans. The reason I say brand new cans, I have about a dozen that have a little bit left or half. But when I'm painting a part that I'm going to go right over it without sanding it, I want to use a brand new can. A brand new can always sprays to me a little bit nicer. And at the end, it's kind of, every once in a while you get a spit come out of it or something, especially with primer sealer. Now, primer sealer, if you're doing plastic, this is your best insurance that you're not going to have some kind of a paint issue somewhere down the road. And the Rust-Oleum and the Duplicolor seem to work equally well. And the objective here is to get a nice even coat on without getting any runs or any big drips or drools on it. Now, the heat is on, and believe me, the heat almost never shuts off in this house. But being right underneath a heating vent, that'll dry in half an hour, 45 minutes. We'll go have another cup of coffee, relax a little bit, and mix up our blue. So we're mixing up another batch, 50/50 Cromax thinner. This is mid-temp, and that's a custom mix that we had done by Gavin's, and they did a really nice job matching it. Now this vise is real handy for what we're doing, because I want to put that part out to dry. When I get the clear on it, and we have such a beautiful painting day, it should flow out beautifully. It's about 30 degrees right now, maybe even 32. Some of the ice is melting. But what's happened, I can pinch it in there and get the part to lay flat when I put it aside to dry, because tomorrow it's not supposed to get above the teens, and it's going to sit out in the garage all day. That paint will take an extra day to dry. And while that's drying, I want to thank John Pothier again. He made these little Photoshop things that I can put on my computer backdrop, showing the bike with silver wheels and with some of these parts that we've painted already. And I can get a little bit of a preview of what it's going to look like before I actually do the part. Now it'll be interesting to see if having a whole part blue or having the back of it flat black, I don't know until I put the bike back together how that's going to work out. But one of the next things we're going to work on, the logo. We've been working on having a unique logo for this bike, and we're still working on it. So now I knew when I first got the bike it was going to be a blank canvas for a whole winter of modifications. Number one, here it is when it's almost brand new, and I knew the first thing, the tail light in the back, that had to go. The dark gray side covers and front fenders had to go. That piece in the frame that I just made a cover for, that had to go. And it needed something to finish off the front end, and that took me a long time to figure out exactly what. And then after I got it, I needed to lay it back. So it was a long time coming. It's over a year and maybe almost a half that I have the bike. But I'm starting to close in onto what I really think was my vision when I first got the bike. And I didn't buy this bike because it was pretty. I bought it because the performance fit me to a T, and I can make it a little bit better looking, maybe with the wheels, in fact, and the parts we're working on now. And I thought that's a lot easier than buying a bike that's real pretty, and then you try to make the performance fit your needs, or make it more comfortable, or make it sportier, or faster, or whatever. This bike had all that right. It just needed some cosmetic, a little bit of help. Like a beautiful woman, it needed a little makeover. And I have to admit, the evolution of this bike took quite a lot of time, because the front end, I had several thoughts. I kept looking online for a windshield that I liked, or some fairing parts, and I just couldn't think of how I wanted it. When I finally got the one I had and laid it back a little bit, it really floated my boat. And in reality, that's the only boat I have to float. And getting that windshield laid back and getting those little parts painted, made such a difference. And I think each thing we're doing to it just gets a little nicer. Sooner or later, we're going to be in love with it. I'm in love with it right now. And in the course of this winter, I did that test RD wheel. I'm really convinced that is going to be the final cherry on a sundae when we get to do the wheels. And one by one, as we paint these parts blue, it just gets nicer and nicer and nicer. And it dried up beautifully. We have a fresh batch of the blue paint, Cromax blue, and this has really been beautiful paint to use. Now that Cromax dries right up by the heating vent, and about a half an hour. I'm going to give it a little bit of extra time. I'm going to mix up the clear, and it looks like we're going to be able to get the clear on there today. That is drying up just beautifully. It has that nice flat look that gets a good bond to the clear. Now I put two very thin coats on there. It's like an airbrush, almost like an airbrush. I didn't want to get any runs. I didn't want to have any imperfections in it. And I'll try to get on 2 or maybe 3 coats of clear. And that heating vent really does a good job in this cold weather because, of course, a 100-year-old house never shuts off. Now what was a big help today in spraying this out, and of course I spray it like with an airbrush. I spray dry, relatively dry, and put coat after coat on. But what really worked to my advantage here is having some bright sunlight, because this color has pearl in it, it has blue, a little bit of purple in it. It reflects the light beautifully. It's having a sunlight is a giant. And again, thank you Joe Padula for donating. This is the overage on his Ducati repair, the fairing that we did last year, and boy, that was an intense, brought back some good memories. When you have a problem that you can't solve, boy, that's when I feel like then I'm really challenged to get it done. And that one came out perfect. Even the decals came from Australia, if I remember right. We're coming up on the end of this day, and it is getting colder and colder by the minute. Tomorrow is supposed to be in the teens and not get above the teens. So getting this in a garage will be real important. Some quick tips when I'm going to make a small amount. I just put a line with a Sharpie on there so I don't waste any paint. I have a dedicated gun that's never had anything but clear in it. If I have big giant parts, I use the big gun. For these smaller parts, this gun is fine. And I try to get on the coats light. Now, not real thick. It looks like I'm painting with an airbrush sometimes. I try to get those coats on thin. It's better to have a lot of coats thin than just blow it on like it's coming out of a mop or something. Anyway, I don't know how good those tips are, but another thing, and I've heard, I try to include all this information on every video because I always realize there are new people to our channel, is some of these materials, they don't want you to stir it with wood, and I'm not sure if this is one of them, but I guess we could find out the hard way if we had to. Anyway, the cold weather, it's getting cold. This is going to sit in the garage overnight, and tomorrow morning we'll put it up by a heating vent. That has worked real well. I'm amazed how well that has worked. Now, I never used to force dry stuff, but this winter I guess is the exception to the rule. I have my carbon fiber stick here. Now, this day was pretty unusual. In the course of the day, the temperature just started dropping and dropping and dropping, where it normally would get a little bit warmer. Just not this day. And we know that we're coming up on some really cold weather, so I was really happy to get this clear on. I wound up getting 2 nice coats on, and when I was done with this and it was sitting in the garage, I was like just as happy as could be. And this is one of those days where, as that temperature was dropping it, when I was just hoping everything would go right so I could get out of the tundra a little bit earlier than normally. I wanted to get my pictures so I could go down and look at the computer, evaluate this, see how I liked it. This is one of the things I'm not sure I was going to like it until I install it and look on a computer. But it'll give me the option, because I'll always have the clear windshield when I want to evil twin the bike out. So it got brutally cold out there for the second coat. I got 2 coats on. Man, did it get cold. That temperature just went, I have no idea. They were predicting tomorrow was going to never go above like 15 or something. So what I plan to do, I wanted to get that clear done so that tomorrow I could work in a cellar on something, or God forbid, take a day off or something, or eat cookies or something. Anyway, I tried to share the information of painting a part like that. I hope you picked up some good information, or are inspired to go paint something on your own motorcycle or whatever. We do try to post something up every day, what's going on in the shop and our rides and a little bit of our family. And hey, they poured that concrete today. What a job. Am I glad I'm not out there. Boy, that brings back memories. Bad memories too. Anyway, this went off as good as you possibly could expect. And I'm happy it's in the garage drying right now. Now, seeing the kids' concrete work going in, the footing for the foundation, reminded me of when we had our stone work done here. It's many years ago. I'm not sure what year it was. But we had a contractor come in. He had a crew of, I think, 12 or 13 people. It was the middle of the winter. You can see there's snow on the ground. And he wound up, in the course of doing this, it took 4 months. 4 months for his crew to do what they did. You can see they dug up all the dirt. They put black sand down. They leveled everything off. And every time I go out in my backyard and I see the beautiful job he did, all the stones are cut around the edges and everything. Jose and Jose's crew, these guys were wonderful. And after when they finished the job, about a month later we came home and he was planting flowers in front of our house. It was a free bonus. He did some big job locally. And he said, "Oh, I just had a bunch of flowers left over." What a great guy. Thank you, Jose. So once again, I hope you did enjoy the video. And we try to post something up every day. We try to include little tidbits from our personal life, because I count all the people that watch this on YouTube as friends. I hope you're one of them. Hope you'll enjoy the video enough to share it with your friends, or tell them what a great guy I am, and try to do it with a straight face. Anyway, we do have our humble little collection of bikes, one from every 10-year period. We try to work on them mostly in the winter and ride the wheels off them all summer and share everything we possibly can and try to post something every day on YouTube. Thank you, YouTube. You have made life a lot of fun for me. So if you enjoyed the video, I hope you share it with your friends. And of course, I hope, most of all, that we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks again for watching.